We are going to show you how to replace the fan clutch on the mechanical fan. This is pretty much the last piece to my cooling system that we have not replaced at this point. So I just thought that it would be good to replace this. Everything is working good at this point. You guys have seen in my other videos that we did a complete rebuild on the engine, but I just wasn't feeling too comfortable with having an old fan clutch. So we are going to replace this right now. Tyler, what size wrench do we have on there to take off?
We have the nuts that are on this guy are a 13, and oddly enough, believe it or not, half inch is the same size. So we're gonna go ahead and take off. There's 4 bolts here that are on the clutch itself to hold the fan on. There's 2 that are right here on the top of the fan shroud itself. That whole thing will lift out as an assembly. One thing you have to keep in mind is that you actually have to undo the belt, even if you undo that, because the only thing holding that pulley in is those 4 screws. So if you undo those 4 screws, that pulley's probably gonna come off, loosen the belt and everything like that. So you might as well do it anyway, which is what we're working on right now.
And this is what a new fan clutch looks like. Tyler, if you want to grab that and just kind of model that for him. He has better hands to model than I do, but yes, as you can see, this is a brand new fan clutch. This is what you're looking for. Yep. Now, there is some misconstrued information out there as far as how you can tell if you have a good fan clutch or if you have a bad fan clutch. Tyler, why don't you tell our viewers and the folks watching, how can you tell?
So the way that this fan clutch works is it's actually a viscous fluid coupling. There's a concept here with this guy where as it heats up, with the air coming through your radiator, as it heats up, it wants to push more effort or put more friction against the center rotating shaft. One of the interesting concepts about this, and one of the things that people always say is, oh, well, when it's sitting there, you should be able to spin it free because it's cold and there's nothing on it. Well, that's actually not true. Anytime you've ever started up a vehicle with a mechanical fan on it, you're always going to hear that fan come on and run for 1 to 3 seconds at a really high rate before it starts to cool off. And what's happening here is that the fluid that's in this guy is so viscous that it takes that amount of time for it to actually displace the fluid and get it where it needs to be. So once it's at that point, it's at where it needs to be, then at that point, as the fluid itself starts to heat up, it will actually go into the veins of the viscous coupling portion of it and actually spin the fan harder and harder and harder. So the design here is that as the vehicle is running, at a normal temperature, the radiator isn't too hot. The air coming through it isn't too hot. The fan itself doesn't need to run. It doesn't need to spin, so it's not going to have a whole lot of friction against the shaft that's spinning it spinning the entire assembly. As the radiator heats up, the little coil here in the end will actually help to advance the temperature inside the viscous coupling. This side is steel, this side is aluminum. So what we're trying to get is a differential across this. The higher the differential that we have of temperature across this guy, the higher the friction there is between the shaft and the actual fan itself. So the fan will bolt to this guy here. This is what drives the fan. So as the temperature in the radiator goes up, the fan will spin harder and harder and harder and work harder so that it'll actually pull more air.
Why don't you go ahead and spin the fan that we have in here right now so you guys can see how much friction is actually there. It's really easy to spin this fan, and that is not what you want. This new one that we have here, as he's spinning it right there, it doesn't do anything. It does not. Now, granted, we don't have a fan blade on there, but the friction that it has right now is not allowing it to spin whatsoever.
And we're on a really cold day at the moment. The warmer days that we've had here recently, this guy was just, you could flip a spin on this and it would go for an almost full turn.
It's not that cold. It's 27 degrees today, so we're kind of in it's warm.
Jeremy's got his vest on, and I got like 15 layers. Yeah, Jeremy, it's not that warm. So there's a little bit of a misconception on how a mechanical fan clutch actually works. You will hear it come on, and there will be friction and drag across it when it's not actually operating, because the fluid itself will actually settle to one side and create that drag inside this fan or inside that clutch.
All right, we're going to go ahead and disassemble this one right now. We're going to take off we should probably take off this fan shroud. Yep. And that fan shroud, I believe, is 2 10mm bolts, and we will take that off there, and then we will show you the opening at that point. Taking these off, there are 4 of them, so once we get those taken off, we'll get the fan shroud taken off as well, and we'll show you the full assembly at that point. When you adjust the belt to take it off, you will notice on the power steering pump there is a bolt right here that is connected. Right here is the bolt that we need to loosen, and that will give us play in the belt to be able to take it off. That is your tension bracket right there, but we'll loosen that up and then we'll take the belt off. It is a 15 millimeter bolt to loosen that up.
So what we're doing now is we're loosening the pulley, the actual bolt that puts tension into the pulley, and it's always easier to loosen this one before you loosen the actual bolt on the tension or on the pulley itself. And the reason why is because once you loosen the bolt on the pulley, that guy has tension on it until the belt doesn't have tension, so it's always easier to do it this way. So what we'll do now,
so we have the belt off and we have the bolts off for the fan clutch, about ready to take that off.
Just trying to get the fan to come off without destroying the radiator. The fan should come right off, and we actually should be able to, on this guy, we should be able to drop him out the bottom.
Without taking off the fan shroud.
Taking off the fan shroud. He's not stuck inside that stud. That's fine. He's stuck inside the stud. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, it's Mac and Jeremy with my belt. His belt.
It wouldn't be the first time.
I'd say he likes it. Well, you know what? This is an automatic. We can't drop it out the bottom because of the automatic transmission line, so we are going to have to pull the shroud.
Fan shroud off, you have 2 8 millimeter bolts. You'll have one that's right there, and then you have the other one that connects right here. And
so we're just going to pull these guys out. Set that up to the side. Now we can actually pull the fan all the way off of the hub, and the entire assembly should come up. I grabbed it on the wrong side. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to drag this thing up the radiator. We don't want either one of these. So we're trying as hard as we can.
You damage your fins that way.
Yep, to keep it off of the radiator as much as possible right here. So we just need it to come, the whole thing to come up. There we go. Oh, goodness, just like that. She just flop right out. Goodness.
Okay, and there are the studs for the 4 bolts that we took off.
So you guys want to see something interesting? So we can tell that this guy's bad because you can actually see where the fluid has started to come out of the end of this guy. So that doesn't have as much fluid in it as it did before. You can see, yeah. You're not sick now, you were before.
Anything you'd like to say, Tyler?
Hello, Internet.
On the back side of the fan that connects to the fan clutch, you have 4 more bolts that you got to take off. He has the 3 there. We've got 1 in place. We've already taken those off. But you guys pretty much get the gist. So here we are separating the fan from the fan clutch.
Yeah, pops right off just like this, slides right through just like that. You kind of want to make sure as you're doing this that you get it put back on the same way. It will technically go either way, but it's just always good practice to try and make things go back the same way. It actually doesn't matter, because if you flip this around the other way, it's still going to point the fins in the same direction. So it's still going to want to pull it's still going to want to pull air versus pushing air, but it's not going to do it as efficiently. So we need to make sure that we put it on the same way that it came off.
Size bolt. What are we using there for a socket?
So it's a 13 millimeter.
13 millimeter.
Using the ratcheting wrenches that are sitting within arm's length of them being used, that Jeremy has mentioned several times now. So I can go ahead and I'm gonna suffer now. I've already made my bed, punished myself. So I'm gonna just.
That's how we do it here. Fan clutch installed. We got the fan assembly all put together. When you do this, make sure that you don't forget the little
A nice pulley in there. There's one that goes in between those two guys.
that pulley right there. Now we are going to put the belt back on and route that.
Pretty straightforward. So we get him on and fire this guy up.
Okay, well, we got the belt back on. Might be a good idea that before you take the belt off that you really know the configuration, so you know how it goes up, over, under, around. There are quite a few pulleys on here, but just to help yourself when you are reinstalling it, just kind of take that note of how that belt goes and what direction. Okay, we've completed the assembly of the fan clutch. We have it installed at this point, and we are going to go ahead and start her up. All right, go ahead, shut her down. Looks like a successful install. Everything looks good. That is the last part of our cooling system that we had not replaced, so we are set. Everything is brand new. I appreciate you watching this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe to our page. We're going to have many more videos to come. If there's something that you want to see, if there's a video that you want to request, please let us know and we'll put that together for you. Thanks, everyone.